Welcome, fellow practitioners, to the radio program of the Awakening to Save Sentient Beings project. Special edition today. Up next, we invite you to listen to the Cultivation experience, sharing of a Vietnamese Dafa disciple, regarding matters related to the overall body of Dafa disciples. Forged teachings attributed to Master severely undermine the global Dafa body. The video consists of 12 sections. Part 1. When a disciple is faced with the choice between right and wrong in cultivation, what should be done? Since I began cultivating, I have heard many Vietnamese Dafa disciples and read many insightful sharing articles on Minghui, stating, Master said, important matters, practitioners watch the position of Minghui. What's strange is that I recall that Master did not teach anything like this in the scriptures. To verify this, our group conducted some research and discovered that the English version of Minghui had published a translated announcement from the Chinese Minghui website, which was released on July 15, 2000. In that article, Minghui even emphasized this point through the title, On Important Matters. Practitioners must pay attention to the attitude of Minghui, as if confirming that Master had indeed taught this. Excerpt from the announcement on Important Matters. Practitioners must pay attention to the attitude of Minghui. On June 15, 2000, Minghui was instructed to give an advance notice of an upcoming new article. The notice clearly announced, for the first time, Master Li's words. It is not that Minghui does not make mistakes. However, on important matters, practitioners watch the position of Minghui. The purpose of posting my photo and the article, The Knowing Heart on Minghui, was to build a trustworthy website for practitioners. Currently, all Dafa websites, especially Minghui, continue to carry out important historic duties. Of course, once Master has said such words, it would mean that Dafa disciples as a whole must follow Minghui, not merely refer to it. However, if fellow practitioners look closely, they will notice two elements that indicate disrupting the FA. First, the Minghui announcement stated that Master said, it is not that Minghui does not make mistakes. Yet the Minghui editorial team did not clearly cite the source from any Dafa scripture. At the same time, they mentioned that a new scripture from Master would be published soon. This implies that from the outset, that paragraph did not exist in any official scripture, and Minghui was spreading something, Master said in a private setting, which seriously violates the FA principle of take the FA as the teacher. Furthermore, Minghui stated, on June 15, 2000, Minghui was instructed to give an advance notice of an upcoming new article. The notice clearly announced, for the first time, Master Li's words. However, our team reviewed all scriptures from the start of the persecution until now, and did not find any scripture containing that content. I understand that many fellow practitioners may find it hard to believe that the Minghui editorial board would dare to disrupt the FA in such a way, and may think that our team missed something in our search. However, verifying whether a paragraph is truly from Master's FA is actually very simple, and fellow practitioners can easily verify it themselves. The above image is a guide on how to search for Master's FA. Excerpts on the Minghui website. Fellow practitioners just need to follow the instructions in the image. Click on the correct spot. Then paste the paragraph you want to verify into the search bar on the scripture website. If that paragraph truly exists in the scriptures, the result will appear immediately. Currently, the Minghui websites all include a list of Master scriptures published after the persecution began, according to Minghui's announcement and the order of scriptures listed. The first scripture is The Knowing Heart, followed by Towards Consummation. Fellow practitioners only need about 30 seconds to search both scriptures to determine whether the paragraph in the announcement actually exists. Even if one wants to search through all scriptures after 1999, it would only take around 15 minutes. And the result, of course, is it does not exist. Second, there is another very important aspect that fellow practitioners need to rationally reconsider. When encountering a major issue in cultivation, should we look at Minghui's stance, or should we measure it against the FA taught by Master? I believe fellow practitioners already have a clear answer to the deviated, enlightenment nature of the above paragraph from the Minghui editorial team. Take the FA as the teacher is not a slogan, not only in major issues, but even in the smallest actions. We must use Master's FA as the standard. From what Master has taught, I understand that in any profession, a disciple can cultivate. However, the work itself is not cultivation. Only by applying the FA in one's work does it become true cultivation. Even when working on Dafa-related projects, if a disciple does not measure oneself, the world, and others with the FA, then they are just like an ordinary person. Part 2. Minghui issued 3 declarations, disrupting the FA regarding important matters. Practitioners must pay attention to the attitude of Minghui. Our group has carefully examined all relevant announcements from the Minghui editorial board and discovered that Minghui, Chinese version, has issued a total of 3 declarations related to this matter. Each specific announcement is clearly cited below so fellow practitioners can verify and examine them independently. Notably, none of the 3 declarations cite any source from Master scriptures to substantiate that Master truly said such things. This clearly shows that Minghui has forged the FA of Master. Fellow practitioners are aware that the Google Chrome browser can translate web pages with a relatively high level of accuracy. Therefore, practitioners can use this browser to view the referenced announcements below to determine whether our statements are accurate. First declaration disrupting the FA. Minghui English translation of the June 15, 2000. Chinese announcement. Minghui, Chinese, announcement dated June 15, 2000. Second declaration disrupting the FA. Minghui English translation of the July 15, 2000. Chinese announcement. Minghui, Chinese, announcement dated July 15, 2000. According to our understanding of the situation at that time, on June 15, 2000, Minghui published its first declaration disrupting the FA. The announcement quickly spread to Dafa disciples around the world. However, since the content was characterized by deviated enlightenment and lacked any citation from Master scriptures, it surely received strong reactions from genuine cultivators who cherish the principle of take the FA as the teacher. Therefore, exactly 1 month later, on July 15, 2000, the Minghui editorial board issued a second announcement to reaffirm its stance, but in essence, it continued to disrupt the FA. Minghui even emphasized its position by titling the second declaration, On Important Matters. Practitioners must pay attention to the attitude of Minghui. Fellow practitioners who read this second announcement should be able to clearly see this. Thus, after 2 announcements from the Minghui editorial board, Master still had not issued any scriptures confirming the content proclaimed by Minghui. Even so, the practitioners in the Minghui editorial board did not publish any solemn declaration to correct their mistake and uphold Dafa. ISN. This a clear manifestation of strong attachment to the self? Moreover, the following information may further shock fellow practitioners. It is well known that Minghui, Chinese, is the primary source, as it can directly access information from China regarding the persecution of Dafa disciples. Therefore, Minghui websites in other countries mostly translate content from Minghui, Chinese. During our in-depth investigation, we checked all Minghui websites run by disciples in other countries and found that, excluding some newly established Minghui sites, 7 websites had removed the declaration, disrupting the FA related to the statement. Important matters. Practitioners must pay attention to the attitude of Minghui. These 7 sites include 1. Minghui in German. 2. Minghui in Bosnian. 3. Minghui in Indonesian. 4. Minghui in Croatian. 5. Minghui in Polish. 6. Minghui in Serbian. 7. Minghui in Turkish. This indicates that some fellow practitioners working on the Minghui project have realized that publishing this announcement was wrong and damaging to Dafa, and thus quietly removed it. However, 11 other Minghui websites still retain the declaration that disrupts the FA. 1. Minghui in Chinese. 2. Minghui in Vietnamese. 3. Minghui in English. 4. Minghui in Spanish. 5. Minghui in French. 6. Minghui in Hebrew. 7. Minghui in Slovak. 8. Minghui in Italian. 9. Minghui in Russian. 10. Minghui in Persian. 11. Minghui in Japanese. Claiming that Master once said important matters. Practitioners must pay attention to the attitude of Minghui is a great honor for the Minghui project. Therefore, such a significant matter would definitely be published across all Minghui websites in different countries. Even Minghui Vietnam, established relatively late, still translated and published the article in 2018, which somewhat proves the seriousness and broad impact that the Minghui editorial board intended to convey at that time. However, the fellow practitioners responsible for the 7 websites that removed the article, though realizing it was wrong, still did not issue a solemn declaration to correct their mistake and uphold Dafa to rectify the damage done to Dafa. Clearly, they prioritized face and protecting their project over safeguarding Dafa. This betrays Master's trust. Some practitioners may think that someone in the Minghui project might have written a solemn declaration, but we were unaware of it because it was not approved by Minghui, Chinese. Or it was published but not widely circulated. However, this possibility is highly unlikely. While it's true that all Minghui websites in various countries are coordinated by Minghui, Chinese, this applies only to critical issues. Fellow practitioners know that the current list of Minghui-affiliated websites includes 24 sites, so it's impossible for the Minghui, Chinese, editorial board to micromanage all foreign websites. In other words, each Minghui website outside of China is independently operated by local Dafa disciples. Furthermore, the influence of each Minghui website on the whole body of local practitioners is significant. The Minghui Declaration disrupting the FA has existed for over 24 years. If any Minghui site had not been affected by human attachments and had maintained righteous thoughts to issue a solemn declaration to correct the mistake and uphold Dafa, then surely the whole body of disciples in that area would have rectified the deviations and thereby safeguarded Dafa. Such an act would certainly have a ripple effect, influencing the whole body of disciples in other countries as well. After our group completed the above section, we discovered a third Minghui declaration issued on December 18, 2012. This article again stated, important matters. Practitioners must pay attention to the attitude of Minghui. Yet, it still did not cite any source from Master Scriptures. Therefore, we added this part to our article. Thus, even after more than 12 years, some practitioners in the Minghui project still could not let go of their attachment to disrupting the FA, failed to issue any solemn declaration to correct their mistake and uphold Dafa, and continued to publish a third declaration disrupting the FA. Third notice on disrupting the FA. Minghui English translated the announcement from Minghui Chinese dated December 18, 2012. Minghui Chinese announcement on December 18, 2012. In this announcement, Minghui only mentioned that the second scripture, Towards Consummation, had been published, without addressing whether the version of Towards Consummation included or excluded the paragraph on deviated enlightenment in important matters. Practitioners must pay attention to the attitude of Minghui. The way those fellow practitioners wrote it seems merely to cover things up and use vague wording to brush the matter aside. Notably, this announcement from Minghui also contains Master's commentary, which Minghui English translated as follows. Master said, Cultivation is about removing human thoughts, and it serves to weed out those who are firmly entrenched in their human thinking, and who disrupt things. Whenever something crooked comes about to interfere with practitioners, in each instance it is meant to be a test to remove human thoughts and differentiate between those who can and those who can't meet the standard. These things will take on all kinds of appearances, and are able to, if you look at them from the surface, mislead those who have emissions or attachments driven by human thinking. I want to make something clear. It is not only the evil that is attacking. Minghui with various means when practitioners don't remove their human thoughts. They, too, play that damaging role. As for whether you can make it in cultivation or not, as long as the period for cultivation is ongoing, there are opportunities for you to make it. But on the other hand, unknowns abound as well. Are you a cultivator? With Master's commentary. Fellow practitioners, please take a close look at Master's statement. It is not only the evil that is attacking. Minghui with various means when practitioners don't remove their human thoughts. They, too, play that damaging role. In reality, some Dafa disciples have misunderstood Master's comment. They believe that any disciple who criticizes or holds differing opinions about Minghui must be evil. This logic implies that even if Minghui does something wrong or disrupts Dafa, any disciple who speaks out would be deemed evil. Don't you find such reasoning to be utterly irrational and absurd? As I understand it, when Master refers to the evil, he is talking about beings in other dimensions that are persecuting Dafa disciples, not human beings. These beings include the old forces, guardian gods manipulated by them, dark minions, chaotic spirits, and so on. Could it be that simply because a disciple voices concerns about a project run by Dafa disciples, Master would label that person as evil? That interpretation is not reasonable. In fact, it seems that fellow practitioners in charge of the Minghui project and some other disciples have not yet realized that Master's comment in the article about disrupting the FA was actually a wake-up call directed at them. When Master speaks of the evil attacking Minghui through various means, this doesn't simply refer to special agents manipulated by the evil destroying the Minghui website. Think carefully. If the minds of Minghui practitioners are not upright and they falsely alter Master's FA, through what means would the evil attack? It would attack through their thinking, amplifying their attachments and warped understandings around important matters. Practitioners must pay attention to the attitude of Minghui, ultimately leading them to deviated enlightenment. Master said, through the effect of righteous thoughts, everything around and within you will change. You've never tried it to see. The interference from the old forces and the evil factors is exactly targeting the loopholes in your thinking. For years, they've been doing this. The chaotic spirits, manipulated by the old forces and the evil party's elements have always acted this way, causing you to fail in your mission to save people. Teaching the FA at the 20th anniversary of Dafa's introduction. Teaching the FA at the FA Conference 11. Master said, when a practitioner has strong attachments, then strictly speaking, his or her behavior at that moment is completely a manifestation of demonic nature, a reaction driven by emotion, not rationality. That's when the evil can appear. Essentials for further advancement 2. Part 3. Why is the content of the 3 announcements about disrupting the FA on the Chinese Minghui site different from some announcements on Minghui websites in other countries? It is strange that when our group checked announcements on Minghui websites in other countries, we discovered that 3 announcements on the Chinese Minghui website regarding disrupting the FA significantly differ from similar announcements on foreign Minghui websites. Take the second announcement dated July 15, 2000. For example, and fellow practitioners will see English Minghui translation of the July 15, 2000. Chinese announcement. Chinese Minghui announcement on July 15, 2000. Do you notice that in the Chinese version of these announcements, both the title and Master's words have been altered? Specifically, the word practitioner has been removed. Everyone understands that practitioner refers to a disciple, a student. What I want to emphasize is that Chinese Minghui intentionally concealed their wrongdoing by removing the word practitioner. The purpose is to make the content vague, obscuring the subject, in order to avoid being exposed for quoting Master's words. Important matters. Practitioners must pay attention to the attitude of Minghui. Part 4. Any praise is a test. Minghui's act of fabricating Master's FA is an extremely serious matter of disrupting the FA, involving the entire body of Dafa disciples worldwide. However, Some fellow practitioners misunderstood. Master's comment under the third. Minghui editorial announcement about disrupting the FA. As praise and approval of Minghui's actions in fabricating the FA. This reminds me of another case. Master once sent a letter to criticize a disciple. But that person misunderstood it, made multiple copies, spread them, and even promoted the idea that Master had sent him a personal letter. After listening to Master's teachings, I understood that for cultivators, any form of praise is a test. If we become joyful just because Master commented under our article, without measuring it against the FA that Master taught, it is very easy to misinterpret. This case is similar to when Master sent a letter to a disciple in a lower level of cultivation. Just because Master sent a letter, does it mean that person cultivated well? Master said, some even misunderstood the letter I sent to criticize her, and not realizing it, they photocopied it and distributed it far and wide to promote themselves, saying things like, Master even sent me a letter. There are also people who want other practitioners to follow their orders. So when they speak, they often say, I represent Master Li, and the like. No one represents me. How could your words be the same as what I say? What I say is the FA. Are your words the FA? Excerpt from A Heavy Blow, Essentials for Further Advancement. Master also said, as a cultivator, all the hardships encountered among everyday people are tests to pass. All praise encountered is also a test. A cultivator is naturally part of ITI, Essentials for Further Advancement. After listening to Master's teachings in various scriptures, I understand that no matter what a disciple has done wrong, even if the matter is serious, Master will not treat them differently, not even if they are Chinese communist agents posing as Dafa disciples. Therefore, when Minghui or the whole body of Dafa disciples make a mistake, each person must enlighten to it on their own and pass the test. Master did not show different treatment when Minghui fabricated the FA. In his comment, Master still compassionately taught the FA as a reminder. When I mention agents, I mean that even in the past, Master did not discriminate and still treated them as ordinary disciples. However, once Master published the scripture Eliminate Evil, that became the final warning for those agents hiding among Dafa disciples. Part 5. Several Cultivation. Sharing articles that spread disruptions of the FA regarding important matters. Practitioners must pay attention to the attitude of Minghui. Unfortunately, since then, many Dafa disciples have believed that this notice is the FA taught by Master, and this issue of disrupting the FA has spread throughout the whole body of Dafa disciples. Many people say, Master said, important matters. Practitioners must pay attention to the attitude of Minghui, but they do not clearly cite any source from the scriptures or only reference notices issued by the Minghui editorial board. The article The Journey of Falun Dafa, A Bright but Arduous Path, mentions the fake quote important matters. Practitioners watch the position of Minghui and attributes it to a Minghui notice dated July 15, 2000. The sharing article Never Left Behind. When trusting Master and the FA, clearly cites sources when quoting other parts of the FA, but when it mentions the fake quote important matters, practitioners watch the position of Minghui. It only cites a Minghui notice, the second genuine scripture since July 22, 1999, will be published in the next few days. The article Another Enlightenment on the Issue of Gender Separation provides clear sources for FA quotes, but does not cite any scripture source for the fake quote important matters. Practitioners watch the position of Minghui. The article regarding important issues. One must observe Minghui's attitude and must not interfere with the FA using human attachments. Also mentions this quote without citing any clear scripture. The article Another Understanding of Take the FA as the Teacher. On important matters, one must observe the attitude of Minghui net. Cites sources for other FA quotes but attributes this fake quote to a Minghui notice. The second authentic scripture since July 22nd will be published in the coming days by the Minghui editorial board. The article Recommendation for Fellow Practitioners with Conditions to Visit Minghui even uses quotes from other scriptures to support the fake quote important matters. Practitioners watch the position of Minghui. making the disruption of the FA seem ridiculous. In reality, many more articles address this issue, and fellow practitioners can find more on the Minghui website. Fellow practitioners, please consider this if Master truly issued a scripture stating important matters. Practitioners watch the position of Minghui. Then, to prevent the kind of disruption of the FA discussed above, Minghui would have corrected the source citations in these sharing articles. It is impossible that these articles still use the old Minghui notice dated July 15, 2000, to support such an unverified quote. Part 6. Fake disciples imitating the masters. FA are disrupting the whole body of Dafa disciples. Fellow practitioners are aware that the 2021 coordination team claimed to be the Fallon Dafa Association of Vietnam. For many years, they have orally spread that Master instructed them to establish such an association. However, they used the name Coordination Team without legal registration, set up a fund to collect money from practitioners, and covered up a land scam worth over 100 billion VND in Phu Quoc. This group used the name of the FAP Nguyen bookstore to sell scriptures, but did so illegally. Even the overseas FAP Nguyen bookstore projects were unaware of the group's actions regarding the spread of fake instructions. I personally called the 2021 group. They admitted receiving instructions from Master, but only orally. They said that Master has not yet officially issued a scripture about this, but will do so in the future. Most coordinators at exercise sites already know this issue. Though the fake content sounds simple, it has been enough for the 2021 group to disrupt the whole body of Vietnamese Dafa disciples for several years. When corrected, they always use the fake instruction as justification, saying, the coordination team was arranged by Master. Everyone who follows this group bases their actions on this fake instruction. They even do everything in the name of Master. In every notice, they try to involve Master to gain trust because they have already lost credibility among fellow practitioners. The issue of the 2021 group faking Master's instructions is very similar to Minghui faking the Master's FA, only different in degree. Minghui's actions are even more severely disruptive. If Minghui had said, for important matters, practitioners should refer to Dafa and observe Minghui's attitude, it would mean they were placing themselves on the same level as the FA. But instead, they wrote, important matters. Practitioners watch the position of Minghui, which clearly places themselves above Master's FA. This is an extremely severe act of sabotage against Dafa, perhaps the most serious among the 4 major violations committed by the whole body of Dafa disciples. As I have shared in previous articles, the whole body of Dafa disciples has been involved in 4 major incidents of sabotaging Dafa. These violations were arranged by the old forces to destroy the whole body of Dafa disciples. 3 of the other incidents also involved significant influence from Minghui, which is the severe consequence of Minghui faking Master's FA. At the end of this article, I've included links to the other 3 incidents for fellow practitioners who may not be aware. I remember in the past when I raised concerns about Minghui's sharing articles involving ordinary political elections, specifically the sending forth righteous thoughts for Donald Trump. Many fellow practitioners argued with me. I believed that Minghui was interfering with ordinary politics and fabricating a mission for Trump. However, most of them responded with important matters. Practitioners watched the position of Minghui. They reasoned that those articles were approved by Minghui, and since Minghui is overseen by Master, Minghui couldn't be wrong. If there were a mistake, Master would immediately point it out, etc. Furthermore, whenever there were disagreements or conflicts between Minghui and Dafa disciples, defenders of Minghui would always cite the fake quote, important matters. Practitioners watch the position of Minghui. From small matters to major ones, whenever there was a dissenting opinion within the whole body of Dafa disciples against Minghui, there would always be a set of deviated Enlightenment arguments like this. Therefore, it is not surprising that the whole body of Dafa disciples caused 4 major violations that sabotage Dafa. This is exactly as Master taught. Only Dafa disciples themselves can cause the most severe damage to Dafa. Part 7. Why has this issue of disrupting the FA by Minghui lasted for over 24 years? Many may wonder why this matter has dragged on for over 24 years. In fact, Dafa disciples who truly cultivate, always placing the FA and Master first, can recognize the problem. Not only our group, but surely many genuine cultivators around the world have also seen it. However, because many people still harbor an attachment to idolizing Minghui, spreading the truth to safeguard Dafa has become very difficult. When true cultivators discover misconduct and submit articles to Minghui, but they aren't published, there's nothing they can do. I have repeatedly sent articles pointing out the errors, hoping they would correct themselves, but I received no response. Some fellow practitioners who recognized the mistakes wrote solemn declarations to correct their mistakes and uphold Dafa, and I helped them as well. But Minghui either did not publish them or cut out the important parts that pointed to the misconduct. As early as 8 months into my cultivation, I discovered the first serious misconduct and wanted to expose it globally. But now, over 4 years have passed, and I still haven't been able to spread the truth to all Vietnamese practitioners. I'm tech-savvy and still face difficulties, how much more so for others, especially in China, where the internet is blocked. The main channel for international exchange is Minghui, making it even harder to spread the truth. If any disciple had the financial means to launch a large project to spread the truth, things would be different, but that has never happened. I understand that the whole body of disciples has deep feelings for and trust in Minghui because they have contributed greatly to Dafa. Master has also spoken about their merit. So when the truth about the misconduct is revealed, it's not easy for many to accept. However, fellow practitioners should look at things rationally. If we truly want to protect the fellow practitioners at Minghui, we must point out the issues so they can awaken, not ignore serious wrongdoing just because of their past contributions. Right now, Minghui practitioners cannot rectify themselves. To save them, we must spread the truth more widely. Under pressure from the whole body of disciples, they might awaken and write solemn declarations to correct their mistakes and uphold Dafa. That is how we can save them, protect Dafa, and also create opportunities for those who bravely tell the truth to make up for their mistakes. Master has taught that Dafa is both compassionate and majestic. If someone makes a mistake but doesn't dare to admit it, that is disrespectful to Dafa. Master said, as a Dafa disciple, regardless of how well you personally cultivate, this is a major issue. If you fail to do this well, this matter concerning Dafa disciples, then that debt may be severely accounted for by the old forces in the future. You must be very careful. Don't think, I'm in this position, so I decide this time. The responsibility is great. If you don't handle it well, the consequences are severe. Even a slight deviation in your intent is unacceptable. Teaching the FA at the 2014 San Francisco FA Conference. From this teaching, I understand that Master is emphasizing the responsibility of those in charge of practice sites and projects. They have decision-making authority within their scope, but they also bear great responsibility. Even small deviations are not permissible. Minghui is a major project founded by a group of Dafa disciples, but that doesn't mean they have the right to decide major issues concerning the whole body. When the editorial board writes deviated enlightenment announcements on their own and forces disciples to follow, it reflects an attachment to showing off and is no longer a mindset of normal cultivation. A coordinator greatly influences the entire group. If their direction is wrong, the damage can be enormous. For example, in our article analyzing the practitioners involved in TV signal hijacking in China, all such TV signal hijacking projects were sabotaged by evil forces, resulting in thousands of practitioners being persecuted, imprisoned, or even killed. The reason was that from the very beginning, the coordinators of these projects deviated, deliberately breaking the law and going against what Master taught, listening to Master's teachings. I understand that coordinators are also just ordinary disciples, yet many still unconsciously establish hierarchies and idolize them, especially those in major projects like Minghui. This is regrettable. Many are afraid to offer feedback to Minghui's coordinators. And even within Minghui, no one dares to advise them. This is precisely what prevents them from improving their Xinqing and ruins their cultivation path. Disciple, Minghui keeps publishing articles to end the FA disrupting situation, but some mainland practitioners still fail to wake up. Master said, yes, they've already been controlled by evil, even opposing Minghui Net. Do you all know why? I publish news articles on Minghui Net. It's to let everyone know that it is reliable, a platform for Dafa disciples to share. Speaking from another angle, Master is also watching, ensuring that no major issues arise. Teaching the FA at the 2013 New York Metropolitan FA Conference, a fellow practitioner sent me the above quote after reading this article, prompting me to add this part. They asked if our group was opposing Minghui and wondered about the phrase. Master is also watching, ensuring that no major issues arise. From that question and Master's words, I understood the question relates to Minghui, continuously publishing articles pointing out the misconduct to end the FA disrupting situation. Isn't that a good thing? Minghui is safeguarding Dafa. Wouldn't opposing that be wrong? Our group never opposed Minghui's work in validating the FA. We only speak out to stop Minghui from publishing fake lectures that falsely claim to be Master's teachings, so other disciples won't be misled and their FA disrupting situation won't spread further. Isn't that also safeguarding Dafa? Master once said Minghui is a reliable site and a platform for Dafa disciples to share experiences. After the persecution began, many websites were established by disciples to safeguard the FA, but there were also fake sites created by CCP agents. Master needed a trustworthy channel to convey messages to disciples worldwide, so he chose Minghui. When Master said Minghui is reliable, he meant it is a site established by Dafa disciples. That doesn't mean every piece of content on Minghui is consistent with the FA, or that disciples don't need to measure it against the FA. As for the phrase, Master is also watching, ensuring that no major issues arise, I find it difficult to interpret because in reality, the whole body of disciples has caused 4 major incidents that damaged Dafa. But I understand that. In cultivation, there are critical trials and tests that disciples must enlighten to on their own. If it's a cultivation test, Master cannot spell out the answer. As fellow practitioners know, before the persecution began, Master did not make things explicit. If he had, the test would have lost its meaning, and the old gods of the universe would have seen it as heresy, and joined forces to destroy the FA rectification. However, when the whole body of disciples makes serious mistakes, Master does teach the FA. For example, in the incident of sending righteous thoughts for US President Donald Trump in 2020, after the election, Master gave several FA teachings, reminding disciples not to get involved in politics or party struggles. But I saw very few practitioners awaken and write solemn declarations. Even after 4 years, many disciples still have attachments, frequently posting content supporting Trump and interfering in ordinary people's politics. In the end, Master compassionately issued the scripture Wake Up, to point out directly that disciples were involved in the struggle between the Democratic and Republican parties. But how many people wrote solemn declarations after Master clarified the issue, doing things against the FA while waiting for Master to point it out, and then, even after he does, still refusing to admit fault or make amends for the harm done to Dafa? Isn't that being disrespectful to Master and Dafa? Part 8. Disciples who do not genuinely cultivate will not believe that the sin of undermining Dafa is so severe that even 18 levels of hell cannot contain it. Master said, if a person doesn't cultivate well and affects another Dafa disciple or a lot of other Dafa disciples, and causes their cultivation to fail, that is the severe sin of interfering with Dafa disciples' cultivation, one that cannot be absolved even after a being descends down to the 18th level of hell. Teachings at the 2004 International Conference in New York. Master said, sometimes I say that even 18 levels of hell aren't enough to match a person's sin for damaging Dafa. Teachings at the conference in Europe. Master said, if a sin was committed against Dafa during the FA rectification period, interfering with the FA rectification, then that sin cannot be forgiven. There is just this one stipulation. If even this stipulation weren't there, the FA of the cosmos would no longer exist. Beings of the future wouldn't have the FA to follow and abide by. And it would be the same thing as the cosmos not having a FA, making it a messed up, chaotic world. That cannot happen. That would be the same as harming the cosmos. So having a negative effect in FA rectification means having committed such a sin. For a being, it could be caused by just one misplaced thought, but the consequences are devastating. Teachings at the 2004 International Conference in New York. After listening to Master's teaching in that passage, I understood that, if a disciple undermines Dafa, interferes with FA rectification, and causes other Dafa disciples, or even many of them, to fail in their cultivation, then even descending to the 18 levels of hell would not be enough to repay that sin. This is the most serious offense, and Master cannot overlook it. If this standard no longer exists, then the FA of the universe would no longer exist, and beings in the future would have no FA to follow. Therefore, when someone undermines Dafa, their attitude toward Master and Dafa will determine whether they can enter the new universe or be eliminated. Although Master has taught many times about the seriousness of undermining Dafa, I see that very few disciples truly believe his words, especially those who do not truly cultivate. To them, cultivation, the existence of Master's law body, and the FA rectification event all seem half real, half unreal. There was someone who had been cultivating for 3 years before he finally understood that the sin of undermining Dafa is so severe that even the 18 levels of hell cannot contain it. Before that, I had shared this FA principle with him, but he still couldn't remember it, even though he studied Master's FA every day. Part 9. If someone within the community of Dafa disciples undermines Dafa, then other disciples should not treat them as Dafa disciples. Master said, but as you know, Dafa disciples need to reach consummation, so nothing should interfere with the form in which today's Dafa disciples validate the FA. This is extremely critical. As you study the FA, nothing of any sort can be added to it, so you absolutely cannot circulate among Dafa disciples anything that isn't a part of Dafa itself, and you absolutely cannot disrupt Dafa disciples in any way. FA teaching given at the 2004 Western US FA Conference. Master said, whoever spreads things that are not part of Dafa among practitioners is interfering with Dafa disciples and destroying the form of FA rectification. That is an even greater sin than what demons do. In the words of the old forces, it is even more vicious than what demons do. This is truly undermining. I have said before, who can destroy the form of cultivation of Dafa disciples? Can external factors, through this persecution, destroy it? They only serve to temper Dafa disciples and sift out the sand. Who can truly destroy this cultivation group? Destroy Dafa? No one can do that, and reality has proven it. I have said that being interfered with is due to one's own attachments. The FA cannot be destroyed. The only ones who can play a destructive role are those within. Anyone who does such things is not a Dafa disciple, so you must not treat them as Dafa disciples, regardless of how long they have cultivated. FA teaching given at the 2014 San Francisco FA Conference. Listening to Master's teachings in the scriptures. I understand that Dafa disciples must reach consummation. Therefore, in any matter, we must not interfere with the current form of FA validation being carried out by Dafa disciples. This is a very important and serious issue. Apart from studying the FA, nothing else should be mixed in. Absolutely nothing unrelated to Dafa. And the righteous FA should be spread among disciples. And absolutely no interference should be caused to the cultivation of Dafa disciples. Anyone who spreads things that do not belong to the righteous FA and Dafa within the body of disciples is, in fact, interfering with the disciples. Cultivation and undermining Dafa. When the damage comes from within the body of disciples, the sin is even greater than that of demons. In the words of the old forces, it is even more evil than demons. External factors cannot destroy Dafa. Only those within the body of Dafa disciples can cause real harm. Anyone who does so is not a true Dafa disciple, so other disciples should not regard them as such, no matter how long they have been cultivating. This is especially true for those in charge or assistant, coordinators, if anyone is truly undermining Dafa, regardless of who they are. We must replace them immediately upon discovering the issue. We place no demands on ordinary disciples. If they want to study, they study. If they don't, we cannot force them. But for those in charge or assisting roles, it cannot be the same. If they do poorly, they will affect an entire group and interfere with others. Therefore, if a coordinator or assistant is seen doing improper things, we must remove them upon recognition. Thus, if the collective body of Dafa disciples wishes to safeguard Dafa, we must not regard those who undermine Dafa as Dafa disciples. If they sincerely clarify the truth, apologize to Master, and make up for the losses they have caused to Dafa, then we can consider them disciples again. Otherwise, if they refuse to listen to advice and make changes, we should not treat them as Dafa disciples. Master is deeply concerned about those disciples who have not done well. Therefore, I sincerely hope that those who have not done well with the third thing, those who have undermined Dafa, will awaken soon and rectify themselves. Master said, "To all of you who haven't done well, Master now asks you one question. Please listen carefully. At the final moment of consummation, how will you account for those attachments you haven't let go of, and those things you've done wrong? Think it over. I'm extremely concerned." Teaching the FA at the 2014 San Francisco FA Conference. Part 10. Misunderstanding. About unconditional compliance with the chief, coordinator of a project. Master said, "From now on, I am telling everyone that the persons in charge of the main projects, the chief coordinator, are they, representatives of that project. Even those who are the top leaders of the Falun Dafa Association, they are the representatives of that matter. As for the things they do, the requests they make, and the decisions they make, you should carry them out unconditionally." Warm applause. From now on, carry them out unconditionally. Did you hear that clearly? Many times, when debates go on endlessly, as soon as they express their stance, just go ahead and do it. For many matters, it may not even be necessary to discuss with everyone. They can directly arrange it, and everyone goes to carry it out. Why? In the past, so many things were delayed due to endless arguments. Further advancing, teaching the FA at the FA conferences in various places. Part 10. Disciple. Many students in Europe feel it is difficult to reconcile between taking the FA as teacher and absolute obedience to the highest coordinator. Master, I think it's like this. It's not difficult to reconcile at all. The coordinator absolutely will not tell you, for example, to bring their own law and then have you follow their law. You cultivate according to the FA. In terms of being a person, you act according to the FA. The coordinator is in charge of coordinating. Work. These two things are different. Teaching the FA at the 2015 West Coast FA Conference. Having heard Master's teaching, I understand that in the past, many matters were delayed because practitioners argued endlessly. Therefore, from now on, Master clearly stated that the chief coordinators of projects, including the top leaders in the Falun Dafa Association, are the representatives of that project or task. For the things they do, the requests they make, and the decisions they make, participating practitioners should carry them out unconditionally. Once they express their stance, just follow it. It may not even require further discussion, and they have the authority to directly arrange for everyone to implement it. Some practitioners in Europe feel it is difficult to reconcile taking the FA as teacher with absolute obedience to the highest coordinator. But Master made it clear that this is not contradictory. The coordinator will absolutely not bring their own law to replace Dafa. Practitioners cultivate according to Dafa, and coordinators must also act according to the FA, coordinating work and cultivating according to they. FA are two different matters. The key point is to distinguish clearly between unconditional compliance and blind obedience. Unconditional compliance here refers to matters within the scope of work, when the request is not against the FA. To determine what is against the FA, We should directly measure it against Master's teachings, examine the motive of the request, and consult with fellow practitioners who have strong righteous thoughts to avoid subjective judgment. However, I see that many Dafa disciples misunderstand the role of the coordinator and fail to clearly differentiate between unconditional compliance with the chief coordinator of a project and cultivating according to Master's FA. Let me be more specific. When we decide to participate in a project, naturally we should follow the arrangements of the chief coordinator, because they are the one who initiated and bears overall responsibility for that project. If their request is not against the FA and is merely a difference in approach, then we should comply unconditionally, let go of attachments, and cooperate well, although each person may have their own method, before actual implementation. All of these are just personal understandings in theory. If arguments cause delays to the entire project, it will affect validating the FA. Furthermore, if an individual's approach seems effective but stems from an attachment, Master will not allow true success to occur. If it did succeed, the practitioner would become more attached and harder to let go. Master will arrange for the practitioner to let go of attachments in a righteous way, not through the destructive arrangements of the old forces. The coordinator is also a cultivator like all of us. They too have human hearts and can make mistakes. Respecting and cooperating is necessary, but we should not idolize them or treat their words as absolute like Master's FA, nor should we rely on them mentally. For example, when practitioners or projects participate in activities organized by the Falun Dafa Association, such as FA conferences or commemorative formations, it is natural to cooperate with the overall arrangements. But that does not mean the association has the right to force practitioners or projects to do anything. Even Master does not compel anyone to cultivate. So among practitioners, there should be no compulsion. Requiring adherence to activity rules for better results is another matter. However, if the coordinator acts in a way that deviates from the FA, the situation is different. For example, if the Falun Dafa Association requests a local group of practitioners in Area A to cooperate on a task, but they realize it goes against the FA, could damage Dafa, and, after giving kind feedback, the association still insists on proceeding, then what? In that case, if one does not take the FA as teacher but blindly follows, wouldn't that ruin one's cultivation path? Practitioners have the right to choose not to participate, and can find other work to validate the FA, and that is perfectly fine. Master said, an even greater danger is that many people simply follow the coordinator. If the coordinator is good, they are good. If the coordinator does not do well, they also follow suit. In cultivation, I have encouraged every Dafa disciple to walk well their own path, establish their own mighty virtue, reach consummation themselves, and become a king who rules their own heavenly realm. Why can't you walk your own path well, study the FA well, and build up your own righteous thoughts? Teaching the FA at the 2003 Atlanta FA Conference, Master said, if cooperation is not going well, then do it yourself. If on a large-scale cooperation is not possible, then do it on a smaller scale. If cooperation is possible, then work together. No matter what, you have already gone through it. I hope that from now on everyone will be more rational and do even better the things you should do. Teaching the FA at the 2002 Washington, D.C. International FA Conference, Riding the FA Boat. From Master's teachings, I understand that the danger lies in practitioners simply following the coordinator. When the coordinator does well, they follow. When the coordinator does not do well, they still follow. In cultivation, Master teaches that each disciple must walk well their own path, establish their own mighty virtue, and become a king who rules their own world. If cooperation is not possible, do it yourself. If not on a large scale, then on a smaller scale. If cooperation is possible, then work together. Master hopes practitioners will be more rational and do well the things they should do. Cooperation does not mean agreeing 100% on every detail. It means maintaining a shared goal and righteous thoughts. When there are differences, if it does not affect the FA, one can yield to maintain a strong whole. Therefore, cultivation is voluntary, and validating the FA is also voluntary. Even Master does not force anyone. Thus, if fellow practitioners choose not to cooperate with certain projects, even large ones like the Falun Dafa Association, Minghui, or Pure Insight, it is not against the FA. All projects are merely means for disciples to validate Dafa, and all disciples are equal, regardless of when they began cultivation. Of course, if we can all take the FA as teacher and cooperate with major projects, that is even better. If we are not aligned in our goals, then each person should walk well their own path of assisting. Master in FA Rectification. Part 11. If a disciple does not safeguard Dafa, then their cultivation amounts to nothing. I see that many Dafa disciples remain indifferent when they know that someone in the whole body is undermining Dafa. They don't even care when someone impersonates Master's teachings. But everything you have today and everything you will have in the future is granted by Dafa. If even when Dafa is being undermined, you still do not step forward to safeguard it, then what meaning does your cultivation still hold? Master said, your greatest mission is to safeguard the FA. If it is not about undermining Dafa, then there is no need to be concerned. Teaching the FA at the Florida FA Conference in the US, 2001. Master said, actually, everyone is quite clear already. A person who has gained benefits from Dafa, when Dafa is under tribulation, if he cannot speak the truth out of fear for his own safety, can that person be saved? Let me give a simple example. Someone is saved in a dangerous situation, but when he sees his rescuer later facing danger, he turns away and ignores it. Can that be called a good person? A life created by Dafa, a new life granted by Dafa, when Dafa disciples are being persecuted and when the situation of undermining Dafa arises, yet you do not step forward to safeguard Dafa. Can you still be considered a Dafa disciple? You don't even meet the basic standard of being a good person. Moreover, you have truly gained benefits in the eyes of divine beings. Such a life is the most degenerate, worse than those who directly persecute the FA, because the persecutors have not received benefits from Dafa, while this person has, yet does not repay the grace. Therefore, such a person is worse than those evil ones. Dafa has created all beings in the universe. As for how such people will be dealt with, there are standards in the FA. Teaching the FA at the Western US FA Conference in 2004. Teaching the FA at the Conference V. Master said, in the course of FA rectification, even a single thought regarding Dafa, from a divine being, determines whether that being will be kept or eliminated. Can those who have obtained the FA view things through the lens of ordinary people? If someone has obtained the FA yet cannot step forward to validate the FA, can that person still be considered a Dafa disciple? No matter how diligently studying the FA and practicing the exercises that person may do at home, they have already been restrained by demons and have enlightened along an evil path. There are people who want to wait for the Master to spell out everything and instruct everyone on exactly what to do to safeguard the FA. Excerpt from Important Teachings. Part 12. The form of FA projects and the risk of becoming a religious form. Over the years, the overall body of Dafa disciples has experienced 4 serious incidents that undermined Falun Dafa. This writing addresses one of those cases. What they share in common is that they were orchestrated by the old forces to destroy the collective body of Dafa. Disciples, and most disciples worldwide fell into them. In particular, all 4 sabotage cases were heavily influenced by large-scale FA projects of Dafa disciples, especially Minghui. Why does this occur? The root of the problem lies in the fact that a FA project is originally just a means to validate the Great Law, but when disciples become attached to the form itself, it leads to many harmful consequences. Master teaches, Falun Dafa is formless. Today I guide all of you along the most righteous path, to let go of all tangible things, and see only the human heart. Cultivation is the basis for elevating life itself. Any outward form will give rise to attachment in a human being. Now, consider how many religious figures today, what they defend is not Buddha, Tao, or the divine, but rather the form of religion. What they believe in isn't the divine. What they believe in is the form of religion and the expansion of religious prosperity. That is a difference as great as heaven and earth. Belief in the divine and belief in religion. One is in the heavens, the other in the earthly realm. Religion gives rise to human attachment to the form itself, and severely impacts one's genuine faith in the divine. Form affects the elevating factor of a cultivator. Teaching at the Asia-Pacific FA Study Conference. 1. Why does the form of FA projects easily lead disciples to become attached to the form itself? Many disciples initially participate in projects out of a sincere wish to contribute to Falun Dafa. However, over time, some gradually develop the notion that doing a FA project is equivalent to cultivation. This notion causes them to lean on the project, measuring their own diligence by performance or participation. Ultimately, focusing on preserving the project's form replaces genuinely cultivating one's mind, character, and aligning with the FA. When the mind relies on form, cultivators easily develop attachments such as competitiveness, the desire to show off, or pursuing achievements, and they fail to recognize their own shortcomings. Master teaches, if you carry out work without measuring yourself by the FA, if you handle matters without investigating them with Zhennian, right thinking, if you do not stand in, or from, the FA when encountering issues, then you are nothing but an ordinary person, without any difference. Your appearance is ordinary. Your living conditions are ordinary. Your work is ordinary. Even doing FA projects of Dafa disciples, there is no TV in the heavens, and the divine has no media. These things are forms of ordinary society. Excerpt from what it means to be a Dafa disciple. Thus, if we do not act according to what Master teaches, we are ordinary people. Only when we follow the FA of Master are we truly cultivators. 2. Why does the form of FA projects easily impact a disciple's elevation of character? By overly focusing on running FA projects, some disciples devote most of their time and energy to the work, while neglecting studying the FA, doing the exercises, and cultivating their mind. They may even use being busy with projects as an excuse to avoid examining their own hearts per the FA. The result, instead of being elevated, they stagnate or even regress in cultivation. Over time, a whole cultivation group may deviate from the standard of the FA if appearance is emphasized more than inner cultivation. 3. Why does the form of FA projects severely affect a disciple's genuine faith in Master? Some who lead large-scale FA projects have believed themselves to be more advanced than others, or have assumed the right to manage others' cultivation. They have even misused Master's FA, saying things such as, for major matters one should look to the attitude of Minghui, which severely undermines disciples' genuine faith in Master and Falun Dafa. When a cultivator regards a project or individual as the standard, instead of taking the FA as teacher, they have stepped off the true path of cultivation. 4. FA project form, the rudimentary stage of religious form. In reality, the form of a FA project and that of religion share much in common. A project leader is like an abbot, priest, or religious head. They are the administrator of the disciples. Only our present FA project forms have not yet been corrupted as religious forms are in the final law period. However, through the 4 major failures by the collective body of Dafa disciples, the risk has become clear when an individual, under the title of FA project leader, possesses power and does not use the FA as the standard. The project can become corrupted, even used by the old forces to sabotage cultivation. Master teaches regarding the future, let me tell you, at the very end of the FA riding path in the human realm, in the blink of an eye it will dissolve. What about money? Even paper will not exist. Teaching at Lantern Festival 2003. This indicates that at the end of the old universe's FA, everything will be dissolved. Computers, internet, websites, etc. will cease to exist. When humanity enters the new universe, life will return to a primordial state, and FA projects will no longer remain. 5. The issue of fundraising and collecting money within projects. For many years, certain projects have continued raising funds from students. Master has repeatedly pointed out that this is not appropriate according to the FA. and has warned of the danger of degeneration. Master teachers, in recent years, there have been people in mainland China who have unilaterally collected money for fundraising, citing support for new Tang Dynasty television, the Epoch Times, and some overseas media run by practitioners. This cannot be done. A media outlet that cannot truly operate normally and depends long-term on funding from practitioners. That is already a serious issue. On top of that, collecting fundraising money from students is adding mistake upon mistake. I have taught many times about this matter to major media groups. Excerpt from On the Issue of Fundraising. Master teachers, there are still some people constantly cheating money from Dafa disciples through various projects, ostensibly for fundraising, through various projects to defraud Dafa disciples. Teaching at Western US FA Conference 2015. Master teachers, we have some students who, in the name of raising funds for a Dafa project, take money from students, tell students to give money, but have no financial oversight and use it at will. Some deceive, some at first of good intentions, but when they see money accumulating, they conceal a portion for themselves. Some just collect a portion and give only a bit to the students or Dafa projects. Regarding this matter, what do you think your future will be? Teaching at Western US FA Conference 2015. Therefore, organizing fundraising for projects is not in accord with the FA and carries high risks for those who develop attachments to money and benefit. Conclusion. Even while Master is still present, FA projects among Dafa disciples have fallen into many corruptions. It is all the more critical that future disciples, in order to protect Falun Dafa, must not establish any form of FA projects or religious forms. Everything must be aligned with the Great Law, not with any individual or group. Maintain absolute faith in Master and Falun Dafa.